The development of human history is always moving towards integration and unification. In 10,000 BC, thousands of independent human civilizations were on Earth, and then this number decreased. By 1450 AD, the civilizations of the three continents of Eurasia had been closely linked, with close cultural, political, and economic contact. It includes nearly 90% of human beings, which unifies the Asian and African world. Since then, with the development of European navigation technology, the originally independent civilizations of Americas, Australia, and Oceania have no longer evolved alone. The huge Asian and African world has swallowed up all other worlds and gradually developed the concept of the great unification of the world. So, what is the basis of realizing this, the great unification of the world? Harari told us that human beings are gradually unified through the integration of money, empire, and religion. The process of integration and unification has intensified for hundreds of years, making human beings finally become an indivisible entirety today. In a hunting and gathering society, there is no concept of money at all. Each tribe can be self-sufficient, and the social structure is very simple. Until the beginning of the agricultural revolution, this situation has not changed too much. Most people still live in small groups and live a leisurely farming civilization. It relies on mutual help, communication with each other, and bartering. If there is a person in the village who is particularly good at making shoes, and someone who is especially good at making clothes, he can use shoes to change clothes. When the city kingdom rises, various occupations show up: shoemakers, tailors, bakers, and their skills become more professional. At this time, the question is becoming how to trade. The money came into being during this period. There was a concept of money in many places, including shells, horns, ivory, animal skins, clothes, etc. As for money, even in the early 20th century, British Uganda could still pay taxes with shells. Many problems were solved at the time, with money showing up. We can interpret money as follows. Money is the most common and effective system of mutual trust in history. With money as the identity of a medium tool, millions of strangers can cooperate in trade. But just think about it deeply. Is money just a tool? Although it can build common trust among strangers, people do not trust human beings, communities, or some sacred values, but only money itself and the consensus behind it. We don't trust strangers, but we trust the money they hold in their hands. That is to say, there is no trust without money. At that stage, although money had appeared, as the structure of human society became more complex, it seemed to have encountered trouble again. At that time, money was nothing more than some shells. If you want to travel, would you have to carry a large bag of shells? This reflects the inconvenience of money at that time. Subsequently, human beings began to use precious metals as units of measurement, and gold coins, and silver coins entered the stage of history. However, in modern society, the money we can say is members. It is fortunate to live in an era in which scanned mobile phones to complete transactions. Our country supports us, and those transactions are even safer than before. Of course, although the integration and unity of human beings have deep impact on our lives, don't underestimate the power of weapons. For conquerors, the world is a great empire. As long as they have the ability to occupy every corner of the world and let everyone become their subordinates. When it comes to empires, we have always associated with war, slavery, expulsion, and genocide. Empires are the engines that cause all kinds of evil and exploitation. In many cases, people cannot be independent when an empire is collapsed. Instead, after the empire is collapsed or expelled, it will be replaced by a new empire. The reconstruction of the empire is often accompanied by tragic massacres, and survivors are also affected by the cruel oppression, such as the expansion and Holocaust policies of Mongolia Empire in the 13th century, resulting in the world's population sharply declining, the collapse of the agricultural economy, and the demise of many ethnic groups, together with deaths of about 200 million people in Central Asia and Eastern Europe. The massacre is unprecedented and has been recorded in the Guinness World Records. Empire has two obvious characteristics. One is that it must rule many different ethnic groups. Second, the territory can be flexibly adjusted and even expand indefinitely. With the expansion of the empire, the plunder of the empire is not only harmful and useless. The plundered wealth is used to feed the army, art, philosophy, education, and so on. In other words, the evolution of the empire has promoted the progress and emergence of many cultures. Of course, assimilation cannot be ignored. Today, the influence of the empire on modern culture is almost ubiquitous. For example, language. Almost East Asia uses the language of Chinese culture. Almost everyone speaks Spanish, Portuguese, French, or English in South America and North America, regardless of where their ancestors came from. So, what is the current world pattern look like? At present, there are nearly 200 independent countries around the world. The world can be called a great empire and belongs to the same global village. We follow the same legal system and the same rule of peace, living a peaceful and comfortable life. However, the question is, what are the main factors that cause the war to happen? Resources, land, resist oppression. Or it is different religious beliefs. The concept of religion existed as early as the gathering society. At that time, the belief was called pantheism, believing that everything has a soul. In the values of the gatherers, everything is equal, and every creature should be respected. At the beginning of the agricultural revolution, the religious revolution gradually evolved into several major religious schools: polytheism, monotheism, dualism, and pantheists. Because different places have different religious beliefs, and some areas are even completely opposed, religion have repeatedly become the trigger of today's world wars. For example, the religion of Sikhism focuses on the worship of God. Humanistic religion concentrates on the worship of people. Another important section of humanism is social humanism, which guarantees that everyone is equal. However, another opposition to social humanism is the evolution of humanism, obviously like the Nazis. The Nazis engage in anti-human activities under the guise of protecting excellent races and avoiding degeneration. That's why the Nazis advocated protecting and cultivating Aryans, which they believed to be the most progressive type of Homo sapiens. As for Jews, Gypsies, and these Homo sapiens, believed to be degraded, they must be isolated and even eliminated. Yet biologists have broken Nazis' racial theory, especially genetic research, after 1945, which has proved that there is little difference between different human beings. The economic monetary order, the political imperial order, and the globally religious order led to the integration and unification of the world and the establishment of the foundation of the great unification of the world. In the past 100 years, integration has intensified, forming a community with a shared future in today's world. Nowadays, human beings no longer need to worry about food, clothing, housing, and transportation. but focus on the enjoyment of the spiritual world. About 1,500 years ago, mankind moved towards the next vital change, which led to the amazing growth of humanity's power. We call this change the scientific revolution. Why did this revolution happen in West Europe? Why did it happen in the second millennium? And this revolution will bring mankind to which place? Please take a look at the next episode, Scientific Revolution, in the brief history of humanity.